Hey, now we're on. I have the one and only British mortgage broker, Ben Lavender. Ben, what's up, my man?
What's up, Ryan? Thank you for having me, bro. I am excited. Excited.
Yes. Thank you for being here. And I want to have you on because I'm really impressed with how you've built your personal brand. I think a lot of people are seeing the power of personal brand. It's something that I work heavily on. I'm excited about, and I love the way that you've done it. And we'll get into that and kind of the ins and outs of that. But I want to learn a little bit more about your story. When did you start in the business? What has your journey been like from, hey, I'm Ben Lavender. I got into mortgage too. I am the British mortgage broker.
I appreciate that, man. Well, firstly, thank you for the kind words. It has not been an easy journey. It definitely hasn't been difficult in the sense where I had went through extreme hardships in my life, but the learning and getting good at this business is not something that came naturally to me, and I had to work very, very hard at. So, as you so eloquently said, I am, or I go by rather, not I am, I go by New York's favorite British mortgage broker. So I moved from London, England to New York when I was 14 years old. And when I was 22, 23, I was graduating college. I studied accounting at Queens College right here in New York. And I went straight into the mortgage business. So my cousin, Shah Tarani, which a lot of people in our industry, or more especially in AIM, know who Shah is. He is the president and CEO of Madison Mortgage, our company. I saw Shah at a family event a few months before I graduated, and he was like, why don't you give mortgages a shot? So I just jumped in instead of going into accounting. And I'm very, very glad that I did, because as I got toward the end of my college degree or term rather, I kind of decided that accounting wasn't really for me anyway. So it was perfect. So when I got into it, Ryan, like I said before, it didn't come naturally to me in two ways. One, I knew literally nothing about mortgages. I didn't know how purchases worked. I didn't even know what a refinance was, let alone different types of refinances. So what I would literally do, like the MRI books for Fannie, FHA, Freddie, I would literally just read those, so I could learn as much as I could. And truth be told is that I didn't understand what I was reading most of the time anyway, but it got me it got me familiar with the verbiage. So that was cool. And the other piece, when I said it didn't come naturally to me, I'm really referring to my personality. Naturally, I'm very, very introverted. Even on my social, I don't really post about much other than business. And which is a huge no-no for social media gurus. Everyone says throw in your personal, and that's just me. It's what I feel comfortable with, or at least at this point in my life. Maybe that will change. But I found a way to make it work. So what I basically had to do, Ryan, is not really turn myself into an extrovert, but I realized that I feel more comfortable with the more that I know about the product. So I just kept studying and reading and learning as much as I could about structuring loans correctly, because that gave me the confidence to speak to clients with confidence, which I feel is really the number one thing that you need to build that trust with them. Because if you're not confident in
Right.
yourself, why would they be?
So what
So
year did you start? And then at what point did you feel confident talking to consumers?
I started January 16th, and I remember because it's coming up in 10 days, January 16th of 2013, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 2013. So I'm almost 10 years in. So, I mean, I was speaking to consumers in the very beginning. I wasn't really talking to them about the structure of their loan and rates. I mean, obviously, one, because I wasn't licensed, but two, because I wasn't capable of having that conversation. So I was Shaw's LOA for 4 years.
Okay.
And
So
what
you're
I would
behind the
basically,
scenes, just doing what he needed to have done.
well, in the beginning, once I got
Right.
licensed, which took me about 9 months,
Mm-hmm.
especially in New York, it takes a long time. When you from the time that you pass your test to actually getting your license approved, it's anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So it's a long time. So I took the test early, but it took me like a year to get licensed. So once I got licensed and I built up my confidence, I was talking to maybe, I don't know, 75 to 80% of his clients and running with everything from start to finish. But the way that I built up that confidence, and what also gave him the confidence, because he had to trust me, right,
Right.
with handling not his entire business, but with a lot of the clients and important aspects of his business. So what we literally did is that I would just take applications, collect documentation, structure files, and review them with him. I would sit in his office with him anywhere from 30 minutes to sometimes 4 hours a day, every day for a year. And even when I continued to be his LOA, we would continue to review files, obviously. And that's how I learned. Just
So
learn
the
from
leads would come
files.
in and you would get them right off the bat. Like they wouldn't even talk to him. They would just come right to you. You would handle it.
It depends. Sometimes
Okay.
he likes to speak to, or back then when he was originating, he liked to speak to a lot of his clients, or at least his clients would call him first. They would, and which is now what I do with my team. My clients typically call me first. I lay everything out with them, talk to them for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, get an idea of like what they're looking to accomplish. Not like obviously loan stuff, but more where they are in their head. Are they ready? Have they been looking for 6 months? Are they just getting started? It's like the important small things that we need to know as loan officers to correctly communicate with our clients,
Right.
and solving their problem without overwhelming them.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. But basically, that's where I got my confidence from, was basically structuring hundreds and thousands of files with him over and over and over again, and him just saying, Ben, this is great, 90%, but you got to do this, and this. Then the file's ready to be pre-approved and you can go. And
Nice.
that's something that I've passed down to my team. So Ryan, I'm sure you operate the same way, that you structure your files very carefully from the beginning. We're collecting documentation, VOEs, everything. That's the way I'm fortunate that I was trained, because a lot of people in our business, Ryan, don't do that. They just, they'll take their word and give them a pre-approval. So
Right.
again, I'm fortunate in that regard, and hold that to this day.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're the same way. Like, I just went into it a little differently. I went in knowing that I was never going to do loans, that I was only going to do sales and marketing. So I've never done a loan start to finish. I've always had a team behind me. And then I'm lucky enough now that about, I think 2 years ago, that my wife Jessica came on, and so she does all of that. So all the back end. So I just do the front end sales, initial phone call like you do, and then I pass it off. She takes care of it, and I only step in if needed. But with that being said, what I'm really interested about your journey is, at what point did you start having to get your own clientele, when it was like you stopped doing his pipeline and you had to go out and generate the business yourself? When did that happen?
I started as soon as I got licensed,
Mm-hmm.
but I would work on his and work on my own. So
Okay.
but I wasn't doing much. In my first year, I wrote maybe, I don't even know, man, maybe 3, 4 loans of my own. Next year was 18. Following year was 35. It was a very slow climb for me, because even though I got that experience, I really didn't feel that I knew what I was doing. Like I was a master, and I was extremely confident until I
Mm-hmm.
was in the business for 3, maybe even 4 years. It took that long for me to get that, like, I know what I'm doing now. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
No, that's cool. So at what point did the British mortgage broker persona pop its head out? When did that happen?
Yeah, so that happened like 4 years ago, actually, maybe 3 to 4. So that would have been like my 6th year. And
Mm-hmm.
so a bunch of us, like in the community, we all learned marketing from a social media guru that I'm not allowed to mention because people don't like him. But so we all connected through him, and we learned like how to generate Facebook ads and leads, because like when I got licensed, I said to myself, what can I do to get the attention of realtors other than just calling them and saying that we're really great? So I'm like, let me learn how to generate both buyer and seller leads. And so that's when it got plugged in my head, which was maybe the 4th year. And I didn't really start doing it until, like I said, the 6th. So I forgot how it happened, but basically I was driving one day and it popped into my head that people know me because I'm British and I want them to know that I'm a mortgage broker. So I kept it simple. So I didn't even go by New York's favorite British mortgage broker. I just went by the British mortgage broker. And then, Ryan, what started to happen, and I wish that I could say that I was joking, I was getting people from England hitting me up for mortgages. So I was like, this isn't working. So it's like I had to do kind of like a mini rebrand and do the New York thing so people know that I'm physically in New
Right.
York. Then I just kind of ran with it. It wasn't like this thing where I sat down and planned everything and planned this like brand. Had I done reading here and there on marketing and branding and all this stuff? Yes, but I didn't take like a formal class. It was more like one thing at a time. So one day I came up with the tagline. A month later, I came up with the logo, and then it took me a month to refine the logo, and then I had to order apparel and then work it into all my other stuff, and then eventually it made its way onto social media. And that's when, to answer your question, that's when it really took off, is when I started posting everything on social. And
Right.
in the beginning I was only doing like one video a week, and they were these like little skits anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes long. So I had it scheduled every Thursday at 4 p.m. My videographer would come in this way and he wasn't like an in-house guy. So the fact that he was from outside and I had to pay him regardless kept me accountable, and it forced me to do it every week. And from there, it just started going and going and going. And as things have changed, I've changed my content to this day. There are still things that I don't like about what I do and things that I can improve on. And I find that's just kind of the game, honestly. There's always something that we can do better.
Yeah, exactly. So year 6 is when you really started this brand. So what was year 5 production, year 6, year 7, if you can remember, just so we can get a correlation to the branding, and did it have a direct correlation to your production?
I don't remember because it wasn't particularly good at the time. I do remember that 2018 was not a great year for me. That year, I don't know if you remember, Ryan, but rates had spiked up a bit that
Oh,
year.
yeah.
So that was definitely a slow one for me. I'm guessing around 40 to 50 loans. Nothing crazy, which by New York standards, by the way, it's not a bad amount of loans, especially given that our loan amounts are decent and it's an
A lot of
attorney
competition.
state. A lot of competition, but it's an attorney state too, and files unfortunately are quite complicated. So I'm even looking at it now. 2018 I don't have, but 2019 I did 61 loans. 2020 I did 171, and 2021 I did 250 something.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's a massive jump. It's a massive jump. And well, look, Ryan, at the same time, the market's been really good for us, right? Rates have been low, but so it's hard to really calculate how much of that came from branding and my own efforts as opposed to the market. But, a figure that I kind of remind myself of is that, again, in 2021, like I said, 2020 was 171 and 2021 was like 257. So mortgage apps, I think, were down 20% in 2021 compared to 2020. So the fact that I grew in a down year, even though it was still good, I think is a good sign. So that gave me a lot of confidence and like a little pat on the back.
But I mean, that makes sense if you look at marketing in general. Is most marketing is not just the set it, forget it, and it starts working tomorrow. It's a compounding effect. And the more that you put your brand out there and people see it, and then it's established, and they're like, oh, this guy's, a lot of people probably didn't even know you before they see the British, mortgage broker, and then they see that, it sticks in their head, and then they keep seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. And they're like, well, shoot, I've seen him for 3 or 4 years. he's got to be good if he's in this market and he's still around. Whereas if you were just Ben Lavender, people you might just fall under the radar, and it doesn't correlate to them that you are that person. And now that you have that persona, it's much more recognizable. So, I would say it probably had a massive part of it, but like there was a lot of work that goes on behind that, right? So you have this brand. What are you doing to leverage? Like, is your whole goal is you want to gain more realtor partners? Do you go consumer direct? Like, what is working for you that you can say, yes, doing those things, that's what's probably moved the needle the most for me on top of the brand?
So the goal is, my business is split primarily between realtors and past clients / referrals from past clients. I kind of group those together. I get some referrals from like out of state loan offices for New York business because it's very hard to get licensed here if you don't have brick and mortar in New York.
Right.
But that's not a tremendous amount of my business, but not saying I'm not appreciative of it. I am very appreciative of it, but it's not a huge chunk. So it all works together. So the way that I look at social media and branding and how it all fits together is that it's kind of like an elaborate email drip campaign, or a really, really long one. It's not the greatest analogy, but what I'm really getting at is that like the purpose of all my content and the posting isn't necessarily to make a specific point on each post. Yeah, you want to add some value, be a little entertaining, but there are two goals, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago. It's remind people of who I am and what I do. That's it, every single time, because as
top
you
of
just
mind, omnipresence.
Yeah, exactly, precise, and that's one of my favorite words, by the way, omnipresent. So that's really what it is, and that's why like I have the branding, the social, everything everywhere. Like I add all my past clients on Facebook, Instagram, same thing with realtors that I do business with. Not because I believe that if they see me constantly, they're going to be like, Ben is the man. I'm going to send him all my business and life will be amazing. And I've spoken about this on other podcasts because that is the loan officer fantasy.
Right.
That we put content out there and all these realtors are just going to start sending us business. It's not how it works. You have to demonstrate your value. Some people might just not like you, right? And some people may love you. And it's just a matter of building that familiarness over time and staying top of mind. And eventually you may get an opportunity to connect. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But to go back to, again, to your point, Ryan, it all works together because I use my social stuff to stay top of mind of all the people that I interact with in the business. So it does go hand in hand for sure.
So do you spend any ad dollars on putting your content into more? Is it all just organic?
It's all organic, which is really ironic because back in the day, I refused to do any organic marketing.
Oh, wow.
I didn't want to do any of it because I told you I'm an introvert. I don't like putting myself out there. So for me to even do like work related posts is like putting myself out there by my standards. So I just stuck to like Facebook ads and Instagram ads for a few years. And then I realized, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with leads, but I'd rather put the same work to building actual relationships with people online and turning that into business as opposed to generating a ton of leads and having to spend so much time making that lead comfortable. Right. So with that said, we still like, so I have a team of 5 salespeople now, and they work on a mix of lead generation and warm referrals that come in. I'm not saying I don't do the lead gen business. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it's more efficient, right? What's easier to convert, a warm referral or a lead? Simple.
Right. So you do some leads, but you don't necessarily put ad money behind your content.
Organic stuff. Yeah. Precisely. Okay. Yeah, but no ad money behind it. Maybe I should, but for me, I'm not really trying to grab extra random people. And most of the people that I follow or follow me or that I'm friends with, They're local New York people, and that is the primary market that I'm after. It's where I'm at. I'm not trying to go out of to out of state business. When it
Right.
comes across my lap, I don't say no to it, but it's easier, and New Yorkers tend to like to work with people that are in New York.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that's probably a lot of people everywhere is everything's trending towards, I want somebody that's boots on the ground, local, that I know knows the area and they know their stuff, and it's not just some faceless company. So I think that's awesome. So you have the brand stuff working, do some leads. You have a lot of organic coming in from past clients and your referral partners. How much outbound work do you do? Do you cold call realtors at all, or is everything purely inbound?
Literally everything is inbound. I make maybe, I don't know, sometimes 0, sometimes 20 personally outbound phone calls a day. We're not cold calling any realtors. That doesn't mean that we're not going to do that again. I'm open to doing that again if it builds relationships, but I just find like building relationships with realtors online through social is easier, because if they interact with my content, it doesn't mean that they're ready to send me business, but it means that they kind of get my personality and they think I'm funny or I'm providing value or whatever it is. And that is usually an opening to talk and start a relationship. Now, if a realtor comments on one of my posts or replies to my stories and says, haha, that's funny, that's great, I'm not replying like, okay, let's do business right now.
Hey, do you want to
Like,
meet? Do you want a
yeah,
coffee?
yeah. Oh my God. I mean, Ryan, even us, like when recruiters, especially the past couple months, recruiters have been driving us freaking insane. Just the phones have been nonstop, the text, the this, the that. So we know how it feels. So we don't want to put the same thing onto realtors that we potentially want to work with. It's like kind of slow-paced dating. You're building trust over time, and the majority of the relationships that I build online with realtors, it's usually the realtor is the one that comes to me first. That could be a fault of my own. Maybe I should be more aggressive and, put it out there more and try and progress it more. But I just don't want to be too corny, and I don't want it to be all business. And also the other thing as well, I talk about this a lot too, is like, if you're measuring every interaction or you have some type of agenda, two things happen. One, the person that you're talking to, so let's say a realtor that we're talking to, they can sense it from a mile away that all I want from them is business. They can pick that up in 1 second. So I have to erase that from my mind. The second thing is that if I'm like going into social with that effort, like, okay, I have to absolutely like close these realtors and get business from them, on my side, it will then become exhausting because you'll face a lot of rejection. And I just approach it with like, put a lot of content out, put a lot of value out there. Don't expect anything in return. I don't measure like how many realtors I'm getting a month or clients or whatever through social media. It's just whatever comes. And that's it.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll probably, offline, so we don't bore people with it, I'll tell you kind of my strategy I use with targeted Facebook ads that aren't necessarily, like you said, just a direct call to action. It's more so of making sure that the right people see my stuff more consistently, because organic Facebook is dying, and it has been for years. So it's getting tougher and tougher, to where I used to put out a banger video and get 3,000 views organically. And now I'll get 200 to 300 if I'm lucky.
Wow.
And it just depends on the algorithm, how it picks it up and all that. So yeah, well, offline, I can go into detail about that a little more.
Yeah, well, Ryan, I will say this. Back when I was making my first videos back in like 3-4 years ago, when I had that videographer come in every week, I would boost those. And I would target realtors to see them. Did I find that it actually did a ton? It was good. But then when Facebook like redid all their targeting and stuff, like 3-4 years ago, then I just stopped doing it and I let it be organic, and I just added people organically. But
and now it's about
custom,
custom lists now is kind of where it's at. So yeah, Facebook has definitely changed a lot on the technical side of things. So don't want to bore people on that. So But that's really cool. It's like, just like you said, you're building your brand, you're doing it very organic. And it's the misconception a lot of people have is, what's the secret? What's your secret? And almost I would say every single successful person that I've met in this business, it's that they've just continuously gotten better at everything they're doing. And they've compounded that year over year over year. Are there some people that fall into certain niches and certain things and they've just exploded in a year or two? Sure. But they're very few and far between. It's more of that steady, constant growth of just being a trusted advisor to not only the consumer, but also your realtor partners, where they know that their commission is safe with you. And it's like, if a deal can get done at all, you will get it done. And that's what they like, that trust.
That's number one, because it doesn't matter how good your marketing is if you can't close a deal, right? So like I said in the very beginning, I needed the confidence to structure files so I could guarantee and talk to people with confidence, let them know that we could close it. And I think that confidence is also what gave me permission to go and market myself more aggressively. So, but it's a combination as well. So something else that you said as well is like, you have to continuously improve and get better. So there is no secret sauce. I was actually doing like a mini social media training at a real estate office 2 weeks ago. And the manager was very, very kind, is that he introduced me as a social media influencer and marketing expert. And the first thing that I did was corrected him and said, I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but I am neither of those things. I'm not an influencer. I don't know a ton about marketing, but what I do is exactly what you said before, Ryan. I take a lot of action, and whatever action I take, I always try and see how can I improve it to improve my goals and satisfy and help the people that I'm looking to connect with. So it's literally what you just said.
And I'm sure you make it very clear that you're a mortgage broker first and a marketer second, because I think a lot of people go in to teach these classes to realtors, and then they get categorized as the social media person and not a really badass mortgage person, which means they're not going to send you deals.
I probably didn't do a great job of that, actually. But I will note that for next time. Well, they know like, but still, that's a good point.
If you go into a cold room or someone doesn't know you, sometimes that's the most important. You're like, I'm really, really good at loans, but then I had to learn marketing and sales and these things to be able to help more people. And that's what you're there to teach. So no, that's awesome. So it's just cool to see that it's a slow burn. You start off and it's not like, because people look at you now and they look at your numbers and they look at your persona that you have online and they're like, man, this guy is just doing it all. He's killing it. But that took time, that took practice. And even you said you probably could have done it faster, but you wanted to make sure that you felt very confident at each stage. And that stage is going to be different for each individual person.
Yeah. Some people can do it immediately, and for them, good on you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like when I came in, I was 100% commission, no leads, no nothing, really no support other than just kind of helping me learn the ins and outs. And I just had to go get it from day one. So it was a wild ride. It was a wild ride.
Yeah. And same thing, man. Your growth has been crazy. You're freaking everywhere. Like, to our community, you're the marketing expert. So yeah, your growth is skyrocketed, man. You're going to keep crushing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But no, I love what you've done. And I think people just need to get that insight, that find what's different, original about you, and leverage that 100%, because that's what makes you special, that what makes you different. And you're going to repel the people that aren't going to like you, and you're going to attract the people that are. And it just makes day-to-day operation so much easier when you're dealing with all the people you talk to. You're like, oh, I could probably go out and have a drink with this person. It's fun.
Yeah. And whoever's listening, out of all the things that we've talked about, I think what you just said, Ryan, is one of the most important. Not just because you're attracting like people that are like you, or that's important, right? But what it does, especially as a loan officer, as your volume rises, you have to be more efficient with your time. So if you're working with people that don't communicate like you and have like weird triptych ways of trying to get a point across, like, so I actually had a client I was on the phone with yesterday. He's been a long-term client of mine, nice guy, but he's the type of person that like speaks in riddles. And I'm not like that whatsoever. I'm just like, his name's John. I'm like, John, he's like, so, I'm trying to do this. And I'm like, John, I'd love to help you. You've been a long-term client of mine, but in order for me to help you, I need you to communicate to me what you're looking to do very, very precisely. And he kept using all these ambiguous terms. And eventually he was like, okay, Ben, I need this done. I'm like, awesome. Thank you for telling me. This is how we're going to do it. And we're going to get it going now. And it's done. But so my point is that there are cases where you can do that, but there are some people or audiences that just don't jive with you the same way. So it's like if you're a loan officer listening to this and you're early in your career, I get it, because you can't pick and choose who you work with. But over time, I think the people that you work with will get used to you. You'll get an understanding of how you like to communicate, and you'll naturally attract those people. And as we've been talking about for the past half hour, is that you can attract more of those people by putting yourself out there online.
Right. No, that's awesome. And I can attest to the introvert, because I'm an extreme introvert too. But I've been able to build a persona that allows me to get done what needs to get done. And that's kind of like, if you think of the British mortgage broker, when you get into that mindset, it might be a totally different person when you go to make your content than when you're not that. And that can help a lot of people put that persona. And I think one of the most impactful things that content marketing has done for me is that when someone calls me or reaches out to me or whatever, I just assume they know me and everything about me, and I talk to them that way, even if they don't. But in my mind, they know exactly who I am, what I do, what I'm good at, and I just make that assumption right off the gate. So every conversation I have is if I'm talking to a buddy, a friend, a family member, and that has taken 100% of sales pressure off of me once I had that mindset shift, that I just assume that they've seen all my stuff and they've watched every single one of my videos and they know exactly who I am and what I do. And sales literally went from challenging and getting nervous to get on a phone call to like, no big deal, and makes things so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the exact same way, man. Same way, because you can get right down to the point quicker and be more efficient. And like you said, like you're talking to a friend. It's better for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for being, on this meeting today. And I loved hearing your story, and I love your personal brand, and I can't wait to see where it grows and where it goes and where your production goes and how you grow your team. It's going to be awesome to just keep seeing that journey.
To the moon.
To the moon.
Man, we're going to crush it. We're going to keep crushing it.
Keep crushing. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for being on.
Thank you.